Thank you for being here and sharing a little time with this story. I hope it gives you a quiet and meaningful moment. If the story moves you, please like, comment, subscribe, or share it with someone who enjoys emotional science fiction. Now, let us step into a rescue mission near the edge of human space. One frightened child, one wounded little creature, and one Earth captain are about to force the galaxy to face a simple question. Can any living child ever be called property? Earth refused to return the alien child listed as property. The first sound Owen Mercer heard after the storm was not an alarm. It was a pulse. One small pulse came through the rescue board in the forward cabin of the Mercy Lantern. It was soft enough to hide beneath static, but steady enough to feel alive. The ship drifted near the outer edge of the solar system. The last waves of a magnetic storm moved through broken metal and burned cargo shells. Earth rescue crews have been sweeping the area for almost 9 hours. Most official distress signals were already gone. The larger ships had been marked, boarded, or written off. The smaller fragments were being left for recovery drones. Owen did not like leaving any field too early. He stood behind the pilot chair with one hand on the back of it, watching thin lines of light crawl across the glass. He was 42, broad-shouldered, calm-faced, and tired in the quiet way of men who had learned to sleep after bad days, then still wake when the call came. His dark hair was cut short. His rescue jacket had a worn patch on the sleeve that showed Earth in blue and white, held inside 2 open hands. Behind him, the crew of a Mercy Lantern worked in low voices. The storm had damaged 2 outer panels. The port guidance array was slow. The air smelled faintly of warm metal and recycled coffee. Mara Quinn, the ship doctor, leaned over a side display and rubbed her eyes. "Owen," she said, "we have cleared every registered signal in this section." "Registered," Owen said. Mara looked up. She knew that tone. The pilot, Jonah Reyes, glanced back from his chair. "Captain, the field is still moving. If we go deeper, we do it without clean guidance." Owen did not answer at once. He looked at the pulse again. It came and went, then came again. It was too weak for a standard distress beacon, but too uneven for a damaged battery. "That is not a beacon," Jonas said. "It could be a battery loop." "Maybe," Owen said, "but it keeps changing like something is trying to stay alive." Mara moved closer to the main board. "Life signs. One possible," Owen said. Very faint. Jonah exhaled through his nose. "No ship code. No passenger-tag. No escort signal. Then someone out there has less help than everyone else," Owen said. No one argued after that. Owen took the pilot chair himself. Mercy Lantern was a civilian rescue vessel, not a warship, not a patrol ship, and not a diplomatic craft. She was built to cut through debris, dock with damaged hulls, and pull people from places official escorts had already turned away from. Owen knew every sound she made under stress. He knew when her frame was complaining and when she could take more. He eased the ship forward. The debris field opened ahead like a dark river. Broken plating rolled slowly through the storm haze. Frozen fuel glittered in thin sheets. Farther out, a cargo ring spun without power, its empty windows flashing whenever sunlight caught the glass. "Manual thrust," Owen said. "Jonah, kill the assist if it pulls against me." "Ready." Mara, prep cold recovery and pediatric support. Mara turned toward the med bay. "Pediatric?" The pulse is small. That made the cabin quiet. Mercy Lantern moved deeper. A length of torn hull drifted across the bow. Owen tipped the ship down, let it pass overhead, then rolled between 2 cargo frames with only a few yards of dark space to spare. A warning chime began to repeat, sharp and nervous. Jonah muted it. "Thank you," Owen said. "Thought you would ask." "I was about to." The weak pulse returned, clearer now. Owen slowed the ship. He narrowed the forward lights and searched the dark between the larger wrecks. For several seconds, he saw nothing. Then a small shape turned near the shadow of a broken engine bell. It was a survival pod, not the standard galactic kind. It was too small, too old, and patched with cheap thermal film. The pod had no active navigation light. A strip of frost covered one side. Its outer ring had been burned black by an emergency launch. Owen brought Mercy Lantern close enough for the rescue arm. "Pod is losing heat," Jonas said. "Power almost gone. Lock and pull." The rescue arm extended with slow care. Its clamps opened around the pod and closed. The ship shuddered as the pod came in. Mara was already waiting in the lower bay with 2 med techs. Owen left Jonah at the controls and went down the ladder 2 rungs at a time. The pod came through the lock with ice smoking from its seams. Mara scanned it first. "One small life sign," she said. "Another even smaller. Maybe an animal. Pressure. Low. Open it now, or we lose them." Owen took the manual release. The pod hatch fought him for 3 seconds, then gave with a hard crack. Cold air spilled out. Inside, curled against the far wall, was a child. She was small, maybe 10 years old by Earth measure, though Owen knew better than to trust human age at a glance. Her skin was pale blue-gray. Her eyes were large and amber, fixed on the rescue crew with a terror so old it looked practiced. Her thin arms were wrapped around a small creature with silver fur, long ears, and 1 twisted back leg. The child did not scream. She pulled the creature tighter against her chest and turned her body to shield it. Mara lowered her scanner. "Easy," she said softly. "We are not going to hurt you." The child flinched at the light on the scanner. Owen saw it at once. "Dim the bay lights," he said. A med tech reached for the control. The white light softened to a low amber glow. The child blinked. Her breathing was fast. Frost clung to her lashes. The creature in her arms gave a weak little sound. Mara stepped forward, then stopped when the child recoiled. Owen crouched near the open hatch, far enough away that she could see his hands. "My name is Owen Mercer," he said. "This is an Earth rescue ship. You are safe for this minute." The child did not answer. Owen did not ask again. He had learned long ago that fear did not move faster because someone ordered it to. Mara scanned from a distance. Severe dehydration, low body temperature, bruising along the neck and left shoulder. The animal is injured but alive. "Can we move them together?" "We should. If we separate them, she may panic." Owen nodded. "Then we move them together." The child watched his face. She did not understand all his words. Owen could see that, but she understood the space he gave her. She understood that no one pulled the animal from her arms. The med team slid a warmed blanket into the pod. The child stared at it as if it might bite. Then the little animal shivered, and she slowly took the blanket. Not for herself, but to cover the creature first. Mara looked at Owen. Owen saw the same thing she did. Whatever the child had been told she was, she knew how to protect someone weaker. They carried her into the med bay with the animal still against her chest. The identity scan began automatically as soon as the med table read her vital signs. The ship system searched for missing persons, lost passengers, emergency guardians, embassy alerts, colony records, and rescue registries. Owen waited for a name. The screen stayed blank for a long moment. Then a file opened. Not a name, not family, not a home world. A property code appeared. The ship system quietly reported that the rescued biological item matched lost property records held by Vair Institute. Mara froze. Jonah, who had come down from the bridge, stared at the screen. Did it say property? Owen stepped closer. The file listed the child as a biological asset. It listed the silver creature as failed auxiliary material. It gave no age, no guardian, no citizenship, and no personal name. Only a recovery request. Before anyone spoke, a new transmission forced its way onto the channel. A man's face appeared on the medbay wall. He was narrow-faced, clean-shaven, and dressed in a white formal coat with silver trim. Behind him was a smooth interior that looked more like a laboratory than a bridge. "This is Director Soren Vale of Vair Institute," the man said. "Earth vessel Mercy Lantern. You have recovered registered biological property belonging to our facility. You're required to secure the asset and prepare for immediate transfer." The child heard the voice. Her eyes went wide. The small creature woke and trembled in her arms. The child's body pressed back against the med table as if the wall behind her might open. Owen watched her, then looked at the screen. "Director Vale," he said, "this is Captain Owen Mercer of the Earth rescue vessel Mercy Lantern. The child is under medical care." The object in your care is not a child under galactic classification, Vale said. It is restricted research property. It may present biological risk if handled outside our protocols. Mara's face hardened. Owen kept his voice level. Send us the child's name, age, medical history, guardian record, and legal personhood status. The asset has no independent personhood record. Then send the name used by her caregivers. There is no legally relevant name. The child began to shake. Owen turned away from the screen. Mara, continue treatment. Keep the animal with her. Vale's voice sharpened slightly. Captain Mercer, you are interfering with the recovery of protected research property. Owen looked back. Director Vale, on this vessel, living patients are treated before they are classified. We will not transfer anyone while they are unstable. That is not your decision under galactic law. It is my decision under Earth rescue law. Vale studied him. You are placing your ship in violation. No, Owen said. I am placing a child under a blanket. For the first time, the director's polite expression changed. It was not anger. It was surprise, as if Owen had used the wrong word for a tool. Owen ended the transmission. The med bay was silent, except for the child's fast breathing. Jonah looked at him. Captain, they will not let this go. I know. Mara adjusted the blanket around the child and the silver creature. What do we call her? Owen looked at the property code on the screen. Then he reached over and shut that window down. Not that, he said. The child stared at him. Owen crouched again, far enough not to crowd her. You do not have to tell us your name yet, he said. But no one here will call you a number. The child did not speak, but her hand moved very slowly until it rested over the silver creature's head. The gesture was small, but Owen saw the meaning in it. She had heard him. The first Vare ship appeared 17 minutes later. It came out of the storm haze with cold blue running lights and a narrow hull built for speed, not rescue. Its transponder named it the Vare Lancer. It did not ask whether Mercy Lantern needed assistance. It took a position above the smaller Earth vessel and locked onto her flight path. Jonah was back at the pilot station. They are close enough to cut us off. Owen stood behind him. Any weapons? None showing hot, but their guidance field is pressing ours. Trying to hurt us. That is what it feels like. A message arrived from Vare Lancer, carried by an officer who did not give his name. Mercy Lantern was ordered to open a docking collar for a recovery team. The message used clean language. It said inspection, transfer, property protection, and risk control. It did not say child. Mara's voice came from medbay. Owen, she reacted to the docking alert. Heart rate spiked hard. She is pulling at the med leads. I'm on my way. He reached the med bay as the alert sounded again. The child was sitting up, clutching the creature. Her eyes were fixed on the door. Every muscle in her thin body expected it to open. Mara had turned the lights low. I gave her water. She took some. The animal is stable for now. Owen approached slowly. No one is coming through that door without my permission. The child stared at him. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. The creature pushed its head under her arm. It was trying to hide too. Owen looked at Mara. The animal needs a name for the chart. Mara raised an eyebrow. We do not know if it has one. The child whispered something. Owen and Mara both went still. It was barely a sound. Milo. Mara softened. Milo. The child pulled the creature closer, as if afraid the name itself had given him away. Owen nodded once. Then he is Milo. The child's eyes flicked up to Owen. Outside, the docking request became a demand. Owen touched the door panel and sealed the med bay from inside command. The red light above the door came on. Captain, Jonah called over the ship. Channel. Vare Lancer is asking why we locked the medical bay. Owen pressed the reply key. Tell them Earth rescue patients are not boarded during treatment. A pause. Jonah came back. They say they are not requesting the patient. They are requesting property. Owen looked at the child, then at the locked door. Then the door stays closed. The Vare Lancer did not try to dock by force. It did something colder. It began to interfere with Mercy Lantern's return path. Navigation blurrit. Long-range guidance folded into false echoes. The safest path back toward Earth vanished behind a shifting wall of static. Jonah cursed under his breath. They are not jamming us enough to prove hostile action. just enough to make the route ugly. Owen returned to the bridge. How much storm remains between us and Earth cover? Enough to break our nose if we let the system fly. Then the system does not fly. Owen sat in the pilot chair and took full manual control. Mara's voice came from medbay. Owen, I do not like that sentence. Neither do I, he said. Keep them strapped in. Jonah moved to the secondary board. I will manage power. Good. Bleed heat from the port side. Keep the rescue arm folded. I need the ship narrow. Mercy Lantern turned toward the darker part of the debris field. The Vare Lancer followed. Owen did not run straight for Earth. That was what they expected. Instead, he moved through a broken line of cargo husks left by the storm. The larger pieces confused the Vare ship's clean tracking. Mercy Lantern was older, scarred, and built to work among ruins. Owen used that advantage. The ship shook as a magnetic surge rolled across the hull. Jonah gripped the board. We are losing clean read on forward range. I can see enough. That is not comforting. It was not meant to be. A flat piece of wreckage spun toward the bow. Owen cut thrust, let Mercy Lantern drop under it, then fired the lower jets at the last second. The ship rose behind the wreckage and used it like a shield. The Vare Lancer overshot by a fraction. Distance opening, Jonas said. Not for long. Vare Lancer tried to slide around the cargo husks and regain control of the approach. Owen sent Mercy Lantern into a narrow gap between two dead freight frames. One frame scraped the outer shield with a long metal scream. The bridge lights flickered. Mara's voice came through. Everyone is alive back here, but I hope you know what you are doing. I know where I want to end up, Owen said. That is almost the same thing. Jonah glanced at him. Almost. Owen did not smile. Today it has to be. He cut power to the rear lights and let Mercy Lantern drift cold for 3 seconds. The ship fell behind a tumbling engine plate. Valenciennes look-sleeped. Now, Owen said. Jonah poured power into the side thrusters. Mercy Lantern kicked out of the shadow, crossed the last ribbon of storm static, and caught the edge of an Earth relay beam. The guidance board cleared. Jonah let out the breath he had been holding. We have Earth cover. Send full medical emergency code. Owen said. Include attempted recovery interference. Done. The Vare Lancer slowed. It could still follow, but now Earth traffic control was watching. So were 3 civilian relay stations and a rescue oversight channel. The Vare ship stayed back. Owen stood, though his hands ached from the controls. Keep recording everything. He went down to medbay. The child was awake. She had one hand buried in Milo's fur. Her eyes were wet, but she had not cried. Owen sat on the floor a few feet from the bed, not in the chair above her. They cannot board us now, he said. She looked toward the door. It stays closed, Owen said. Her lips parted. Her voice was a whisper. They always open. Not this one. She watched him for a long time. Then she said, Milo stays? Owen nodded. Milo stays. It was the first complete request she had made. Mara turned away for a moment, pretending to check a monitor. The child lowered her head until her forehead touched Milo's. Her shoulders shook once, then stilled. Owen did not call it trust. Not yet. But for the first time since the pod opened, the child was not bracing for the door. Earth did not greet the rescued child with soldiers. That mattered more than Owen expected. Mercy Lantern docked at Harbor House just before dawn over the North Atlantic coast. Harbor House was not a military base. It was a long, low medical refuge built near the water with reinforced landing pads, quiet rooms, and windows wide enough for frightened people to see sky. Earth had made it for refugees, crash survivors, illegal labor victims, stranded workers, and anyone else who arrived with no safe flag to stand under. The child came down the ramp on a soft stretcher with Milo asleep against her side. She kept one hand in his fur even while Mara checked the med leads. Owen walked beside her. He did not touch the stretcher. He stayed close enough for her to see him if she turned her head. The first nurse to meet them was an older woman named Grace Bell. She had gray hair, calm eyes, and the habit of speaking to patients before speaking to files. Hello, Grace said gently to the child. I am Grace. You are at Harbor House on Earth. We're going to keep the light low. The child stared at her. Grace looked at Owen. Does she have a name? Owen paused. The child's fingers tightened in Milo's fur. Not one she has given us yet, Owen said. So we wait. Grace nodded, as if that were the most ordinary answer in the world. Then we will leave the name line blank until she is ready. The child looked at Grace with confusion. A blank line was safer than a wrong one. No one from Vare had ever offered that. They put her in a small room facing the sea. The window had safety glass and no locks on the outside. The bed was low. The lights were warm. The door stayed open unless she wanted it closed. The rescued child studied every detail as if searching for the trap. Milo was placed in a padded animal cradle next to her bed. When a nurse tried to move the cradle a few feet away, the child made a small broken sound. Grace stopped immediately. Beside the bed, then. No one argued. Owen stood in the doorway until the child looked at him. I have to speak with Earth Rescue Command, he said. Mara will stay nearby. Grace will not take Milo away. The child's eyes moved to the door. I will come back, Owen said. She did not ask him a promise. Maybe she did not believe in promises. He went anyway, because leaving and returning mattered more than saying the word. The conference room at Harbor House faced the opposite direction from the child's room. No sea view, just screens, maps, and tired officials trying not to look afraid. Earth Rescue Command joined first, then the Civilian Oversight Board, then two diplomatic liaisons who had already received Vare Institute's complaint. A woman from the diplomatic office, Helen Park, folded her hands on the table. Captain Mercer, Vare Institute, says you unlawfully removed restricted biological property from a recovery field. I removed a living child from a failing pod. Owen said. They contest the word child. I do not. Helen looked down her notes. The council classification may be more complicated. It always is when someone wants a simple thing to be ignored. No one liked that, but no one corrected him. The rescue commander, Anton Graves, leaned closer to his screen. He had known Owen for 14 years. Owen, did Vare Lancer fire on you? No. Did they board? No. Did you record their interference? Full record. Send it to my office. Already done. Helen Park said. The problem is larger than interference. Vare Institute is backed by an old galactic research license. If the council accepts their claim, they can request temporary recovery rights. Recovery, Owen said, is what we did. You know what I mean? Edo. That is the problem. The room went quiet. The legal language was complicated. The moral trap was not. Put simply, Vare wanted the child back. Earth wanted time to prove she was a child, not property. Helen softened a little. Captain, if Earth refuses transfer, our rescue vessels may lose temporary access to several galactic corridors. That means Earth ships could lose the right to save people beyond human space. Every person in that room understood what it meant. If Earth protected one child, Earth rescue ships might lose the right to save thousands more. Owen absorbed that. He did not dismiss it. A weak answer would have been easy. A real one took longer. Then we should be clear about what is being asked, he said. We are not being asked to return equipment. We are being asked to hand over a child who is terrified by the voice of the man claiming her. Helen said, we need proof that she is legally more than the file says. Owen looked at the Harbor House wall beyond the screens. Somewhere behind it, the child was lying in a bed that did not lock from the outside. No, he said. We need proof that the file has any right to be less than what she is. Mara called him an hour later. Her voice was controlled, which meant she was worried. Owen, you need to come to the lab. He found her in the lower medical analysis room with 3 Harbor House specialists. Milo slept in a warmer nearby, his injured leg wrapped in a small brace. The child was not there. Mara pointed at a living scan on the display. When we treated the scar tissue around the child's neck, we found remnants of a biological lock. That part we expected. Then we found this. The image showed a cluster of faint markers deep in the child's tissue. Is it a tracker? Owen asked. Not exactly. It is a hidden record. For what? Mara swallowed. Identity markers. A lot of them. Not names yet, but proof that someone had been there. Owen stared at the screen. Mara touched the control. Lines of coded data unfolded. They were not names anyone could read. They were small biological signs, each one tied to someone who had once been real. To Mara, the marks were evidence. To the child, they were not codes at all. They were voices from behind the wall. How many? At least 43 markers could still be read. More were damaged. Some were inactive. Some still pulsed. Each faint pulse meant someone had once been real enough to leave a trace. Owen felt the room grow colder. Children, we did not know all of them, but several markers showed juvenile growth patterns. Then, these are not just files. No, Mara said quietly. They may be the last traces of children there erased from the records. Owen looked at the screen again. Some lines were dim. Some still pulsed faintly. Active means alive. Possibly. Or recently alive. We cannot promise more than that. Why would the child carry this? Mara looked at Milo. Maybe she was used as a carrier. Maybe someone hid the markers in her. Maybe Ver used one body to hold pieces of many records and never imagined she would leave. Does Ver know we found it? Not unless they still have a live link to the old lock. We blocked what we could. Does opening it hurt her? It might. Not physically if we are careful. But she will know we are looking inside something they put in her without consent. Owen nodded. Then we ask. Mara studied him. If she says no, then it waits. Even if the data could prove Ver is lying. Owen looked through the glass toward the hall that led to the child's room. Especially then, he said, if we treat her like evidence before we treat her like a person, Ver has already taught us their language. They brought the question to the child that evening. Mara sat in the chair near the bed. Owen stood near the window. Grace stayed by the door. Milo was awake now, weak but alert, his long ears twitching at each sound. Mara explained slowly. She did not use the word asset. She did not use the word property. She told the child that Ver had left hidden marks inside her body, and some marks might belong to other children. At the word children, the child's face changed. Her eyes moved to the wall. Behind the wall, she whispered. Owen did not move. What was behind the wall? Voices. Mara's voice stayed gentle. Do you remember them? The child pressed her palm against Milo's side. One sang. Grace blinked hard, but said nothing. Do you want us to look at the hidden marks? Mara asked. You can say no. The child looked at Owen. He did not nod. He did not push. It is your body, he said. Not ours. The child frowned, as if the sentence made no sense. Mine. Yes. The word seemed too large for her. She looked down at her hands. There were old marks on her wrists where restraints had been. If we look, she said, can you find the voices? We could try, Mara said, but I will not lie. We may not find everyone. The child looked afraid of the answer, but more afraid of leaving the voices behind the wall. Her eyes filled, but her voice held. Try. That was the first choice Harbor House recorded. Under her blank name line. Not a property instruction. Not a recovery order. A choice. While Harbor House was still trying to understand the hidden markers, Ver moved first in public. They were not only trying to recover the child. They were trying to control what the galaxy believed about her. Their statements spread across galactic networks before Earth finished its first internal report. Director Soren Vale appeared in his white coat and spoke with grave concern. He said Earth had seized restricted biological research from a disaster field. He said the material might be unstable. He said Ver Institute respected all recognized persons. But he also said this matter involved property created under license for medical advancement. He did not acknowledge that the child could have a name. He did not say Milo. He did not say child. Earth networks responded first with anger. Galactic networks were slower. Some commentators dismissed Earth as sentimental. Others asked why Ver had provided no medical file, no guardian record, and no personal history. Then a still image leaked from Mercy Lantern's med bay. It showed the child wrapped in a blanket, shielding Milo from the light. The image did what Owen's report could not. It made the word property look obscene. By noon, Galactic Council liaison channels were crowded. By evening, Council sent an observer. Talon Oris arrived at Harbor House in a gray travel coat, with no guard and no smile. He was tall, thin, and older than he first appeared, with silver skin marked by fine dark lines along the jaw. He introduced himself as a Council compliance observer. His voice was not cruel. That almost made it harder. Owen Mercer, he said when they met in the intake hall. You understand that your refusal has created a legal crisis. Owen shook his hand. The crisis was already there. We just opened the pod. Talon regarded him carefully. You speak as if clarity is the same as legality. No, I speak as if legality without clarity is how people disappear. Talon's expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. Helen Park joined them. Observer Oris will review the medical status and confirm that Harbor House is not altering. Disputed evidence. Owen looked at her. The child is not disputed evidence. Talon said, the council has not yet recognized the child as a legal individual. She has. That may not be sufficient under current law. Then current law is late. Helen said, Owen. He stopped, not because he regretted it, but because the child was more important than winning a sentence. Talon was allowed to see the child through glass only. Owen insisted on that, and Mara backed him. The child was awake when Talon came to the observation room. She saw the unfamiliar figure and pulled the blanket up to her chin. Milo, still weak, lifted his head. Talon watched her for a long time. He had spent his life reading files. Now the file was sitting behind glass, shaking under a blanket that did not fit. For the first time, the file looked back. She is smaller than the file implied, he said. Owen looked at him. The file implied she was a thing. Talon did not answer. Later, in the briefing room, Mara presented the medical findings in plain language. She described dehydration, restraint marks, fear response, memory, attachment, and the hidden identity markers. She kept the legal words small and the living facts clear. The child was afraid of their voices. She protected Milo. She remembered other children. And the marks inside her were not just data. They were proof that other children had existed, even after Vare removed their names. Talon listened without interruption. When Mara finished, he folded his hands. I do not dispute that the subject experiences distress. Mara's jaw tightened. She's not a property code. The council file contains only the code. Then the file is missing the most important part. Talon turned to Owen. Captain Mercer, you should understand the danger of what Earth is asking. If every created being can be treated as a person instead of property, thousands of agreements will collapse. Owen leaned back. If thousands of agreements depend on children staying nameless, they should collapse. Talon's voice remained even. That is a moral statement, not an administrative plan. Good, Owen said. Someone should start with one. Talon looked tired then. Not defeated. Not convinced. Tired in a way Owen recognized from rescue scenes, when someone saw that the damage was larger than the first report. You may find, Talon said, that the galaxy is less moved by one child than Earth hopes. Owen glanced toward the hall where the child slept. Then we will start with one and see who can still look away. The recovery order arrived 2 days later. It did not come from the full Galactic Council. It came from a smaller biological compliance office under Council authority. That made it harder to fight. It was not dramatic. It was not a declaration. It was an administrative order with calm language and a short deadline. The order sounded official, but its meaning was simple. Vare was coming Harbor House to take Lyra before Earth could fully defend her. The deadline was short. Vare Institute was granted a temporary right to inspect and recover what the office called disputed biological property. Helen Park read it aloud in the Harbor House conference room, then stopped with her mouth still partly open. Mara stood behind a chair. They cannot be serious. Talon Oris stood near the window. The office believes Earth may compromise the hidden markers. Those markers are evidence, Mara said. And Vare says even the evidence inside her body belongs to them, Owen said. The room fell still. The names of the offices kept changing, but the question did not. Would Earth hand over a frightened child because a file called her property? Owen looked at Helen. When their recovery team has permission to arrive within 6 hours. At Harbor House. Yes. Mara said no. Owen looked at Talon. If Earth refuses entry? Talon's answer came slowly. If Earth uses force against an authorized recovery team, the Council can suspend Earth rescue access beyond solar jurisdiction. Mara went pale. Owen understood the shape of the trap. If he let Vare take the child, she vanished. If he fought, Earth could lose access to the corridors where civilian rescue ships saved lives every month. The threat was simple. If Earth protected one child, Earth rescue ships might lose the right to save thousands more. Ver had made one child stand in front of thousands of future emergencies. That was how cruel systems defended themselves. They made the decent choice look selfish. Helen said, "Owen, Earth security can delay them. Maybe we can appeal." "How long?" "Not long enough." Mara said, "We move the child. Then we look like we are hiding her. We are protecting her." "Yes," Owen said. "So they need to see what we are protecting her from." Everyone looked at him. By then, the fight was no longer only about one room at Harbor House. It was about whether Earth would accept Ver's word before hearing the child's. Talon said, "Captain, what are you proposing?" Owen turned to Helen. "Open a public medical witness channel. Earth feed, galactic feed, all of it. No edits." Helen stared. "That is dangerous." "So is a closed door." Mara understood first. If they come with a cold transport box, everyone sees it. If they call her property, everyone hears it, Owen said. If they treat a child like cargo, they do it in front of the people whose laws they have been hiding behind. Talon's eyes narrowed. "You would turn a recovery action into public pressure." "No," Owen said. "I would turn the lights on." Helen looked sick, but she nodded slowly. "Earth may not authorize it." "Then authorize me to stand in the hallway," Owen said. "I'm already under review." No one laughed. Owen went to the child's room before the team arrived. She knew something was wrong before he spoke. Children who had lived under fear learned to read adults too well. "They are coming," she said. Owen sat in the chair near the bed. "Yes." Her face closed. Her hand went to the old mark at her neck. "Milo too. They want both of you." Milo lifted his head at the sound of his name. The child whispered, "The coal box." Owen did not lie. "Maybe." She curled around Milo. Owen wanted to tell her he would never let it happen. He wanted the simple sentence. But simple sentences could break, and the child had heard enough broken ones. So he told her the truth he could hold. "I will be at the door," he said. She looked at him. "Doors open. Some do. Some do not." Her voice became very small. "If they say I am not real." Owen leaned forward, hands open on his knees. "Then they are wrong." Before they finished speaking, the child watched his face. "Do I have to talk?" she asked. "No, but the others." Owen waited. "The voices," she said. "If I do not talk, they stay in the wall." Owen's throat tightened. "You choose," he said. "Not Ver. Not me. You." The child looked at Milo. The little animal pressed his head into her palm. "Will you stay?" "Yes." "Even if I cannot?" "Yes." That was all. The Ver team arrived under a clear afternoon sky. Their shuttle landed on the Harbor House pad without a mark of violence on it. Its sides were white. Its door opened with a soft mechanical sigh. 4 recovery officers stepped out in clean protective suits. Behind them came Director Soren Vale, still in his white coat, and 2 assistants pushing a cold transport box. The box was the size of a small bed. Its surface was silver. Its lid had soft straps inside. The public feed opened as they crossed the pad. No title appeared on the screen. No dramatic music. No argument. Just Harbor House, the sea wind, a frightened child inside, and a box moving toward the door. Owen stood in the main medical hall with Mara on one side and Grace on the other. Helen Park stood farther back, face pale but steady. Talon Orris stood near the wall, officially present as an observer. Unofficially, Owen thought, Talon looked like a man watching a bridge burn and realizing he had helped build it. Soren Vale entered with a polite nod. "Captain Mercer," he said, "you have made this more difficult than necessary." Owen said, "I have made it visible." Soren's gaze flicked toward the live witness lens. "Visibility does not change classification." "No," Owen said, "but it changes who has to live with it." Soren turned to Talon. "Observer Orris, Ver Institute is here under authorized order." Talon's voice was quiet. "The order is acknowledged." The recovery officers moved toward the child's room. Owen stepped in front of the door. Soren sighed. "Captain, do not perform courage for a camera. The subject has no legal standing to refuse transfer." Mara said, "She has a medical standing to refuse being moved." "Dr. Quinn, Your treatment has been noted. It does not override ownership. The word landed in the hallway like something dirty. Owen did not raise his voice. Say she is more than your code. Soren looked at him. There is no legal name. Behind the door, the child heard him. Owen knew because the room monitor showed her heart rate jump. Mara moved closer to the witness lens. For the public medical record, I am Dr. Mara Quinn of Harbor House. The child inside this room feels fear, remembers pain, makes choices, and protects another living creature. She reacts with trauma whenever their voices, their equipment, or transport containment come near her. Soren remained calm. Conditioning can produce those responses. The asset can mimic attachment. Mara's face went white with anger. Owen lifted one hand slightly, not to silence her, but to hold the hallway steady. Soren continued. She requires controlled handling. Your sentiment is interfering with licensed research. The public feed carried every word. Grace Bell, who had said almost nothing, spoke from beside Owen. She asked if rain hurts. Soren blinked. Excuse me? Grace's voice trembled but held. This morning, she asked if water falling from the sky hurts. That was not research. That was a child trying to imagine a world where the ceiling does not punish her. For the first time, Soren looked annoyed. Sentimental statements are not legal evidence. No, Owen said, but the box behind you is. The witness lens shifted slightly. Across the galaxy, anyone watching could see the cold transport box, the straps inside, and the child-sized shape of it. Talon looked at the box. Then he looked at the child's closed door. He had read the order as procedure. Now he was watching that procedure move toward a shaking child in the shape of a box. Something in his face tightened. Soren's voice hardened. Enough. Open the room. Owen did not move. Talon or a step forward. Director Vale, before transfer. The council record requires confirmation that the subject cannot make an independent claim. Soren turned sharply. The subject has no recognized identity. That is not the same as no claim. The hallway changed. Only slightly, but enough. Owen did not look at Talon. He kept his eyes on Soren and the recovery officers. Soren said, very well. Ask your question through the door. It will not change ownership. Owen turned his head toward the room. You do not have to come out, he said very softly. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the door opened from inside. The child stood in the doorway, wearing a soft Harbor House robe that was too large for her. Milo was in her arms, one leg wrapped, eyes open and dark. The child's face was pale with fear. Her whole body shook. Owen wanted to step back and shield her again. He did not. This was her step. Soren looked at her as if she were an object that had rolled out of storage. You are out of containment, he said. The child flinched, but she did not retreat. Owen said, look at me if you need to. She did. The witness lens caught it. The child did not look to the director who claimed ownership. She did not look to the observer holding procedure. She looked to the Earth captain standing beside the door. Then she looked at the screen Mara had placed near the wall. On it were the biological markers found inside her body. Most were only coded lines. A few pulsed faintly, still active. The child stared at them. Her lips moved. Mara knelt beside the screen. You do not have to read them. The child whispered that one sang. The hallway went still. She lifted one shaking hand toward a marker. That one gave water. Her finger moved to another. That one did not come back. Soren's face tightened. These are not names. These are internal identifiers. The child turned toward him. For a moment, she looked so small Owen thought she might disappear inside the robe. Then she spoke. My name is Lyra. For one breath, the hallway belonged only to her. Soren said nothing. Lyra held Milo closer and looked at the pulsing markers. They had names too, she said. You took them off the doors. No one answered her. No one moved. Even the recovery officers looked at the floor. Soren recovered first. This is a coached response. Owen looked at him then, and there was no anger in his face. Only a steadiness that made the hallway feel anchored. No, Owen said. That is a child remembering. People your files buried. For a few seconds, the feed was silent. Soren's eyes went to the witness lens. He understood too late that the legal order had done what Owen wanted. It had brought the hidden thing into daylight. Then the messages began. Earth first, then colony networks, then neutral rescue boards, then non-human family registries, then medical ethics groups from worlds that had never agreed on anything before. Talon Oris looked down at his own council receiver. His expression changed by a fraction. The Biological Compliance Office has issued a pause, he said. Soren turned on him. On what grounds? Talon read the notice slowly, as if each word cost him something. Public review of disputed personhood status and potential evidence suppression. Soren's jaw set. This is irregular. Talon looked at Lyra, then at Milo, then at the box. Yes, he said. It is. The recovery officers were ordered to stand down. Soren Vale did not shout. He did not threaten in the hallway. He adjusted his white coat and looked at Owen with a cold promise in his eyes. This is not over, Soren said. Owen said, for her, that is the first honest thing you have said. Soren left with the box. Only when the shuttle lifted from the pad did Lyra sway. Owen caught her before she fell. She did not pull away this time. That night, Lyra slept with Milo against her chest, and no one from Vare opened her door. Harbor House did not celebrate. The staff kept their voices low, and Grace checked the hallway more often than she needed to. Lyra still woke at small sounds. But every time she opened her eyes, the door was still hers, and Milo was still beside her. The days after the Harbor House transmission did not become easy. Easy would have made it feel like a story people told to make themselves comfortable. Owen knew better. Systems did not lose power because one child spoke. They bent first, looked for new language, and waited for the world to stop watching. But for the moment, the world did not stop watching. The first change was not a victory parade. It was a locked door that stayed locked. The Galactic Council suspended the recovery order for Lyra and Milo, and Vare Institute lost direct access to them. An inquiry opened into the hidden biological markers. In plain words, Vare could no longer take Lyra just because an old file called her property. Earth issued an emergency shelter rule 3 days later. The rule did not declare war on council law. It did not solve every injustice in the galaxy. It only said one clear thing. On Earth soil, no living being would be surrendered as property before independent review. Not if they could show fear, memory, attachment, or a sense of self. Not if they showed a clear wish to live. The legal offices argued over every word. Harbor House staff simply printed a copy and put it by the intake desk because the meaning was simple enough for anyone there to understand. A living person could not be treated as lost cargo. Saving Lyra had not ended the cost. It had only moved part of it onto Owen. He was suspended from active command, pending review, and he accepted the notice in a small office overlooking the landing pad. Commander Anton Graves delivered it in person because he respected Owen too much to send it through a clerk. You understand why, Anton said. Yes. You opened a public feed during an active diplomatic order. Yes. You put Earth Rescue in the center of a council crisis. Yes. Anton looked out the window. Down on the pad, a Harbor House nurse was walking Milo in a soft support sling while Lyra watched from a shaded bench, wrapped in a blanket as if the open air still felt too big. Anton sighed. Off the record, I would have opened the feed too. On the record? On the record, you are a problem. Owen accepted that without argument. Anton shook his head. Go see the kid, Owen. Am I allowed? You are suspended from command, not from being decent. Owen found Lyra outside under a pale morning sky. She watched the sea with deep suspicion, as if the horizon might move toward her without warning. Milo lay beside her, thin but awake, his injured leg resting in a brace. Grace sat nearby, knitting something that looked too small for any human. Lyra looked up when Owen approached. Your ship. Someone else is watching her for now. Because of me? No. Lida Fronit. She knew when. Adults use soft lies. She was not asking about the law. She was asking if saving her had made her dangerous to the people who stayed. Owen sat on the bench, leaving space between them. Because I made a choice. People are reviewing that choice. Will they take your door? He understood after a second. She meant command. His ship. His place to stand. Maybe for a while. Lyra looked at Milo. I did that. No, Owen said. Vare did. The law did. I did what I chose to do. She considered that. They always said choices belong to owners, she whispered. Owen looked at the water. They were wrong about many things. A gull cried overhead. Lyra filinchit. Bird, Owen said. Does it bite? Not from there. She watched the sky. It is ugly. It thinks the same about us. That made her blink. Then, very faintly, she smiled. It was gone almost at once, but Owen saw it. Mara came out a little later with good news. Milo's infection had cleared. He would limp, but he would live. Grace cried when Mara said it. Mara pretended not to notice. Lyra did not cry. She put both hands around Milo and lowered her forehead to his fur. Live, she whispered. Milo made a small chirping sound. That afternoon, Talon Oris asked to speak with Owen before leaving Earth. They met in a quiet hall outside Harbor House Records. Talon looked less formal than before. The lines along his jaw looked darker in the human light. The council inquiry will be slow, he said. Their institute has allies. I expected both, Owen said. Talon looked through the glass wall into the records room, where Mara and 2 investigators were reviewing the active biological markers. I have read many files like hers, he said. Not the full truth, perhaps. Enough to recognize the category. And I never saw a hallway. I never saw a box. I never saw a child standing beside the words used to erase her. Owen waited. Talon turned back. You asked us to look. Owen looked toward Lyra's room. Did you? Talon was quiet for a long time. Yes, he said. It was not justice yet, but it was a crack, and cracks mattered. Before the week ended, the first rescue vessels changed their status signals. No one ordered them to. Do it. An Earth tug near Ceres sent it first, then a deep corridor ambulance, then a colony relief ship. Then the Mercy Lantern, still under temporary command, but very much alive, sent the same line when she returned to patrol. No living child is lost property. The phrase moved through the rescue bands. It did not fix the law, and it did not find the other children yet, but gave frightened people a sentence to look for in the dark. On Lyra's 7th morning at Harbor House, rain fell. She had asked about water from the sky in fear. Now, she was watching it from a room where no one came to hurt her. She stood at her window with Milo in her arms and watched water slide down the glass. Owen stood behind her near the door. He had come to say goodbye before a review meeting in Geneva. But Lyra had not turned away from the window. Is the sky leaking? She asked. No, Owen said. It is raining. Does it hurt? No. Why does it fall? Owen thought about giving the scientific answer. Water, clouds, air, gravity. Then he looked at Lyra's face and chose the answer she needed more. Sometimes the sky carries too much, he said. So let some of it go. Lyra watched the rain for a long time. In the white rooms, water came from the ceiling when we were dirty. Owen said nothing. It hurt Milo. I am sorry. She touched the glass. This water does not look angry. No. Grace came to the door with a small sign in her hands. She had made it from warm colored wood. The letters were simple and dark. Lyra. No code. No ownership line. No classification. Just the name. Grace looked at Lyra. May I put on your door? Lyra turned to Owen. He did not nod. He did not answer for her. Lyra held Milo tighter, then looked back at Grace. Yes. Grace fixed the sign to the door at a height Lyra could reach. Lyra walked to it slowly. She touched each letter with one finger. Mine, she said. Owen felt the word in his chest. Yes, he said. Yours. For a while, no one said anything else. The rain did the talking for them. Outside, rain washed the windows of Harbor House. Beyond Earth, the work ahead would be long. Vare would fight, and the council would move slowly. But one child was no longer a number, and one door on Earth had a name. No living child is lost property. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please like, comment, and subscribe so more listeners can find the channel. And if someone you know enjoys emotional science fiction about courage and kindness, please share it with them. Until the next story, I hope you have a peaceful day.